Ladies and gentlemen, the Buffalo Bills cannot win a Week 5 matchup. Last time we did it was 2022. Last year we lost with the exact same score against a team that Stefon Diggs was on said roster. 23-20. The Buffalo Bills lose to the New England Patriots, and narratives are flying all over, right? Of course, you end up getting your usual fire Sean McDermott. This defense is atrocious. Josh Allen needs another wide receiver. This team is fraudulent. I mean, we're hearing it all. And you know what? We are going to unpack everything we learned from last night, address all of the narratives, and hopefully provide you a bit of a therapy session. Welcome, indeed, to the Bills Roundtable. Jake, what's going on, man? You were there in person. How you feeling this morning?
I mean, not great. I mean, the whiteout did not go as planned for the Buffalo Bills, and I stuck to my guns, had to wear the blue jersey. I'm superstitious. It didn't work out. The Bills didn't win the game, but I don't know. It feels like if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing, and that's what I was going for. The whiteout crowd did not go as planned, and seeing Stefon Diggs tear apart the Buffalo Bills last night, that one stung. It really stung. It was just a tough game to be at, and the energy there, I think it's great that you mentioned the Houston game from last season because it was very similar. Obviously, the Stefon Diggs storyline last year, it was more fresh. It was the first time going head-to-head with his old team. This time, his first time back in Buffalo. And the game was kind of similar, too, because there was a lot of frustrating moments. And the Bills, they were coming back in Houston. They were coming back here at home against the New England Patriots, but ultimately fall short by a score of 23-20, just like they did at NRG Stadium last year.
In NRG Stadium. Z-Bot, what's going on, man? I was able to tap in a little bit right to your post game last night, you know? And so you were saying a lot of things that made sense, but you know what? It just hurt even more, especially coming from you. But what's going on, man? How you doing?
I see Kobe didn't miss an opportunity to tune into this episode of the Bills Roundtable. Good to see you, Kobe. Congratulations on the W, right? I mean, this is just a tough loss to swallow if you're a Buffalo Bills fan. I was convinced that the Bills were going to be undefeated going into the bye, and that ended up not being the case. Losing at home, you had the streak on the line. Should they have won last night, they would have tied the longest consecutive home win streak record from the 90-91 era. And I mean, that's incredible when you think about it. That's a 35-year gap, something that hasn't been done. And it was really it would have been representative of what this team has been with Sean McDermott and Josh Allen. It would have sent the Ralph off on an even higher note, yet they lose to the New England Patriots in a game where, you know, this is the first time Drake May has a primetime game. This is the opportunity for this Patriots team to make a statement and kind of cement themselves as a team that is a threat in the AFC East. And the Bills allowed them to do that. And not only did they allow them to do it, but the New England Patriots did it on their own. Drake May really earned this W, made a couple of unbelievable plays. And for a team that we've been saying the last few weeks has been not overly impressive in their W's, I think it came to bite them in a game where they wound up losing. I think a lot of the issues that were on the surface in their wins wound up surfacing again in a loss. And I think now that becomes a bit more concerning, of course, because winning cures all. And when you don't win, those concerns are even more highlighted. And of course, you address them deeper because you can't simply sit back and say, well, they won the game, so we'll just move on. A lot of looking in the mirror to do here, I think, after that game last night. The turnovers, the penalties, unprepared, sloppy, and it bit them. That was probably the best team the Bills have played this season. I know it's crazy to say, but when we look at it right now, the Jets are the worst team in the NFL. The Saints have had that argument. The Dolphins, they have one victory, and it's over the Jets. And then, of course, the Ravens, who have fallen off of earth. So this was maybe their first true test. The best quarterback they played since Lamar Jackson, and they lose. So tough one to swallow. Got to bounce back because all of a sudden an AFC East that looked locked up before October is all of a sudden interesting with the Patriots playing the Saints this upcoming weekend and the Bills playing a Falcons team who we know should be able to run on them if history repeats itself the way things have been going up until now.
What's going on, Kev?
Just another day in paradise. All right. You look through the metrics of the sport and you look through different topics of conversation. You can't turn the ball over multiple times and expect to win football games, no matter who you are, whether you're the Raiders, whether you're the Patriots, whether you're pick your team, Ravens even, pick your team here. The Chiefs can't turn the ball over and lose the turnover battle by -2. But I think the talking points are interesting today. I thought the defense played decent in stretches. I thought the pressure was there. Their D-line metrics were good. That's totally a little bit different than the talking point. I thought their run defense was strong. A little bit different of the talking point. So I think there's been a little bit different of a surfacing of topics in this game. Obviously, the outcome wasn't as expected, but I do think there's some things to unpack that aren't just like, hey, they didn't stop the run. I think that there's a multitude of things you can discuss. And it starts with your quarterback. There's definitely some misses. There's definitely some misses on film. There's definitely some pressing. This is what happens when you want to throw the ball 10 plus yards. We all complained about it. This is what it looks like sometimes underneath that mantra when you're not taking what you're given. You lose. I mean, so that's where the whole win ugly or win pretty or lose pretty or whatever debate you want to have. Sometimes if that's the way you're going to play, you need to see Curtis Samuel in the deep third completely wide open, safety bit the other way. So at some point, you got to remember, like, the offense is at risk here. The offense scored 3 points through 10 minutes left in the third quarter. Like, at some point, they have to bear some responsibility. And it's not the same talking points of just the D-line sucks, no linebackers, and being drafted Maxwell Harrison instead of whomever.
Yeah. So I'll even add to that, right? Like, I'm still seeing people come out and blaming the defense. And did Trey White get embarrassed out there for the vast majority of the game? Yes, he did. Benford certainly had a rough game. Taron Johnson, right? You had Shaq Thompson in a couple of reps that didn't look too good against Diggs. Same thing with Cole Bishop. But really, at the end of the day, I know that all of us would have taken this if you were to tell me that the Buffalo Bills, for the most part, shut down their run game, right? All right. Only 33% third down conversions for the New England Patriots. So all of this that we hear, like, oh my God, it's the defense, that's the problem. I feel like people are afraid to criticize Josh Allen in the offense.
They are.
I feel like people are terrified of doing it because, oh my God, it's the MVP. Like, he can do no wrong. Like, last night was piss poor. And I hate Hockey Lee, right? Like, he is the worst referee I have seen in my entire life. But out of all of those penalties called on the Buffalo Bills, that was us playing undisciplined football out there. Sure, sometimes we're going to luck out and find referees that are going to swallow the whistle, if you will, all right, on certain scenarios. It's not him. It's on this team for us going out there and shooting ourselves in the foot. That Dawson Knox, like, handoff where he didn't even seem like he knew it was coming, like, that was piss poor. Saw Keon Coleman fumble, giving them the ball right in their red zone, right? And then the Josh Allen interception, right, in our very own red zone, which is uncharacteristic. Like, this team, compared to the first 3 weeks of playing complementary and disciplined football, is completely evaporated. It's completely evaporated for the past 2 weeks. And the only thing that I'm holding on to hope for is that we continue this trend. Because I started this show off by joking that we haven't won a game in week 5 since 2022. History shows that Buffalo typically ends up figuring some things out. They make their adjustments and they win. But, like, who knows? Like, say that we were to get 3 less penalties called, or say that we were to even give up 1 less turnover. Like, we only turned the ball over twice rather than 3 times. What would this game have looked like? I'm banking on the fact that this was just an uncharacteristic anomaly, and history proves that we tend to fix things and go on a run afterwards. That's what I'm hoping for. Further thoughts, Z-Bot?
Yeah, I mean, I think if Allen doesn't throw that interception, the Bills probably win. They get points there. If Keon Coleman doesn't fumble on their own 10, there's an argument that they could win the game. They get points there, and this game came down to a field goal. The other thing, too, is beyond Josh Allen's interception, you also have a series where you're down near the red zone where they ended up tying the game at 20. and it's 1st and 10, incompletion. 2nd and 10, incompletion. And then the controversial 3rd and 10 where Allen did have a wide open wide receiver on the left side bailed out of the pocket. And then I think Khalil Shakir was interfered with and it wasn't called. But you have 3 consecutive plays there where not a single yard is gained. That can't happen. It just simply can't. You're already in position to go and maybe put this game away in regulation. There was just over 2 minutes left. If the Bills play their cards right, they're maybe able to win this in regulation or leave the Patriots with nearly no time having to go the distance and score a touchdown. So that, to me, out of all the flaws in this game, the penalties, the turnovers, that's what really stood out the most, that really stunk, because they were going to be able to overcome all of that. And you have a series where you have a series of downs where you don't gain a single yard. 1st, 2nd, and 3rd down, nothing. And then the scary thing is it shouldn't, as well as the defense played in this game. And I really did think the defense played well. They bailed the offense out in the first half. 3 points scored in the first half. You have a turnover on that Dawson Knox reverse, which how that's even in the playbook, I'll never understand. I have no idea on what planet they're sitting around saying, you know what would be great if we ran an end around with Dawson Knox, because I think the best case scenario on that play is what, fellas? Maybe a 3-4 yard gain at most if it works. So I don't know what you're doing there, but the Bills defense forces a fumble the very next play. And then you have the fumble from Keon Coleman, and you you have the series where the Patriots are right in front of the goal line before the half. So the series right before the half, and they're on the goal line, and the Bills are able to force them into kicking a field goal. So you have to give credit to the defense. But what's concerning is that 2 minutes remaining should not be a concern if you're a Bills fan, with a second-year quarterback playing his 17th game and a rookie kicker going down and beating you. Yet you were very concerned, right? And that, to me, is what's alarming, is even though the defense did play well for a good portion of that game last night, and I don't think the blame falls on them, or at least the majority, the fact that you're concerned with 2 minutes left that Drake May and a rookie kicker are going to go down and win this in regulation is a problem. Because if they're going to be able to do it, then the vast majority of the upper echelon teams in the league are going to be able to do it, Dan. So a little over 2 minutes remaining, the Bills defense needed to make a stop there, and they didn't. The problem I have, though, with this take is I'm kind of stuck between the defense didn't get it done, but the Patriots, they willed themselves to getting it done. The Bills had Drake May sacked on that first down. It would have been 2nd and 20, and that would have completely changed the game, but he got the ball out. I have no idea how. It was an unbelievable play. Then right before they kicked the field goal to win it, they have him sacked, and he somehow was able to get back to the line of scrimmage. That could have changed the trajectory of the kick, and that could have changed the outcome of the game. As much as I want to dog on the defense in the second half, because the offense came out and scored instantly, and then all of a sudden the Patriots offense was able to turn it on and match that, I have to give a lot of credit to New England here. I really did think New England earned this win in more ways than I think the Bills maybe blew it. I think last week, if the Bills were to have lost to the Saints, you could probably look at that and say, man, how could you possibly blow a game to the Saints the way that they've been playing? Rattler hasn't won a game. I think in this game, you look at it, and I think that the Patriots offense, they did exactly what they wanted to do in this game, executed it perfectly, and Drake May had his coming out game. You have to give the guy credit. I thought Drake May played phenomenally, and in the biggest moments, he rose and he shined. He got it done. So as much as I want to get on the Bills for maybe costing themselves this game, and in many ways they did, I got to tip the cap to New England for earning the victory too.
It's frustrating, man. It's frustrating. Thoughts on the officiating, Jake?
The officiating for me wasn't the biggest concern of the game. To be honest, this falls more on the Buffalo Bills than the officiating, because they were undisciplined out there last night. We can always look at the referees, and sure, there's some calls in almost every game that don't go the way that you'd like. But the thing is, the Buffalo Bills, they did not look prepared last night. And I put that a bit on the coaching staff, because this team, they were undisciplined. They just did not look like they were ready for a game with so many storylines. You have a young emerging team in the New England Patriots that just invested a lot of money in the offseason to try to compete. And what they're doing, they're competing all right. They just beat the Buffalo Bills at home, snapped that long win streak. So you got to give credit to the New England Patriots, but the Bills, more so than the referees, are accountable. They have to be accountable for this loss because offensively, nothing was working for the Bills. Too many turnovers, too many costly mistakes, and something that really stood out, that Keon Coleman fumble inside your own 15-yard line. That's just an unacceptable time to have it. Turns into 3 points. I'm not saying that that's the lone reason that the Bills lost this game, but that was definitely a contributing factor, and it was really frustrating to watch the Buffalo Bills continue to shoot themselves in the foot all game long. Too late.
So the entire thing it was wildly uncharacteristic. And is this crazy to say, right? Like maybe it's just me being salty, but you put Bills and Patriots up 10 times, we're winning 9 of those games. That's kind of where I'm at. And that's why I think I'm so upset about this game, right? Because it's not like that it was out of reach. We were actually in position to win that game toward the end, but it was just those costly errors, almost to a point where I was getting vibes like we were back with Ken Dorsey as our offensive coordinator, right? Like Leslie Frazier was our defensive coordinator again. Like you look at the team and their overall like auras, right? And like how they were going about this entire matchup. Like you didn't even see one positive facial expression of anybody all game. It reminded me of back when Diggs was on this roster, when Ken Dorsey was the offensive coordinator. It just felt off the entire evening. Kev, what were your thoughts on that?
It's a football game, right? So I'm looking at this like not reactionary. We're good at breaking down what's wrong with the team when we win, right? Like we've done that. People say we played like crap the last couple of weeks. Like this didn't look right. That didn't look like the run defense, whatever it may be back in the Saints game or even the Dolphins game. But like now we're reactionary the other way to where you lose and everything was wrong, right? So like I think that there's like some give and take in this situation. I personally don't think Drake May is as good as everyone else does. I really don't. I thought he was pressured. I didn't think he looked great at times. I thought he was skittish in the pocket. I don't think he was excellent. I think he was decent and showed some flashes, including flipping the ball out Josh Allen style on the right edge. The numbers do not back up that he was great, in my opinion. He was good in the second half. But I have a total EPA from a 0.17. It's decent. It's okay. Like there was moments where he was pushed off of the line by pressure and either made plays or didn't. They were awful on third down. So like at some point, like the Bills, Z-Bot's pointing to Trey White. Trey White did not have a good game. I expected Trey White to take the next step. I saw some flashes and some signs early on this season, especially in especially in the Jets game. I know it's the Jets, but it's at least live reps. I thought he would take the next step as he kind of looks better throughout the year as he did last year when he switched teams to the Ravens. It just hasn't been there. Some of it was a honey hole shot. That was one of May's best throws of the day. Was in that honey hole. It wasn't necessarily just Trey White's fault. The safety was not there, and the Bills' safety play has been sketchy. I really like Bishop. I think he's progressed. I think he's taken the next step and has been one of the Bills' best defenders in certain situations. But Rapp has not been great, and I thought that he was at least the staple. You've had Andy Reid bring up Taylor Rapp being a key cog of the Bills' defense. He hasn't been that good. And what happened when Matt Milano went out of the game? I know we rag on him. It's a completely different game. He went out of the game in the second half after the Bills had only allowed 6 points. Sure that they were going to get theirs anyways in the second half. Matt Milano made a difference. He makes a difference against the pass specifically. We didn't see anything from the Patriots tight ends in the first half for a reason. So, and the Bills were number 1 in certain categories against the tight end and number 2 DVOA against the tight end going in. I thought they played the run specifically pretty well. And I thought they shot themselves in the foot way too often, too many ticky-tack calls. It was no flow in the game. Like, I don't care who you are, who you're rooting for. It's not a good game to watch either way in terms of the penalties of 20 penalties. I don't know if you want to watch that, but I need to see more Drake May. I thought he was good, but I don't think you can put him in the upper echelon of play right now. And like getting pressured off the line, he's got to do a little bit better in my opinion. But he won. Ultimately, I don't think the Bills' offense played super well, and that's where I'm gonna land.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Drake May deserves to be talked about as one of the best quarterbacks in the league because of last night, but I think he made a handful of throws that legitimately won them the football game. That's what I took away from it. I didn't watch that and think, whoa, Drake May just cemented himself into the top 5 conversation or around there or whatever. And I've seen some of that, and I know that's crazy hyperbole, but I know that there's some people talking about top 10 or whatever. And I still think that there's a ton of room for, discussion on that. No question about it. But last night, I just looked to the one drive in particular. There's 2 drives that really wound up mattering the most where he made the difference. And the Patriots are up 13-10. It's a 3rd and 7. And Kevin mentioned, and this is what was unfortunate, for a lot of the issues the Bills defense has had up until this point, they corrected the 2 primary issues, and it was third down defense and rush defense. Those were 2 highlights in this game, but there was one third down that really costed them. And it's 13-10 at this point, late third quarter, and it's 3rd and 7. And to Kevin's point, Drake May did a lot of rolling out of the pocket in this game, but for some reason it wound up working more often than not. So he's under pressure. He's going back towards his own end zone. This is the play that really flipped the game in ways that I don't think are being talked about because of how early it happened. It was late in the third quarter. He's running toward the sideline, and Stefon Diggs is actually really well covered, but he puts it right on the money on the sideline, and Diggs catches it right on the sideline, barely getting the 2 feet in. That was 3rd and 7. It extended the drive. That drive would later lead to the Stefon Diggs catch over the middle where it's just a completely blown tackle and he gets it all the way down to the 10-yard line. Patriots score a touchdown. Then it's 20-10. And then on the final drive there, that ability to get the ball out to Stefon Diggs for that first down, that really might have been the game. If his knee is down a half a second earlier, I just can't fathom the New England Patriots winning this game. So to Kevin's point, do I watch that game last night and be like, oh, we got to sit and start talking about Drake May and where he is on our list here? No. But what I did take away was in the moments that seemed to matter the biggest, most pivotal moments in the game, that dude stepped up and made some incredible plays. And Stefon Diggs on the other end of it, unbelievable. The inability to stop that guy all night was truly mind-blowing. And the thing that's scary about it is you go into that game, I would imagine saying, if there's one guy we got to hold in check tonight, it's Stefon Diggs, not only because he's their best receiver, but because of all the factors involved. You know they're going to want to have him have a good game. You know they're going to want to have him go out and show out in that setting. And they could not stop him. In the second half in particular, he was unstoppable. And in many ways, he was the reason they won. Not only that catch that I just referred to and the other one where he breaks the tackle and gets down into the 10-yard line, but of course, the Drake May throw down towards the pylon there, which was unbelievable. And Stefon Diggs put Tre'Davious White on skates and the safety couldn't get over. Just a couple of plays made that I think deserved to be highlighted for May because they were plays that I don't think every quarterback in the league can make right now.
Mm-hmm. So funny thing is that I just realized that I am also streaming on my personal channel. That is completely inadvertent. I had no idea. But folks, since you are streaming, watching this on Bills Roundtable and my channel, I just ended up pinning the Bills Roundtable YouTube channel pinned at the top of this chat. I need each and every single one of you to go subscribe to that channel because that's typically where this show is. Mondays and Thursdays. Normally, it's Victory Monday here on the Bills Roundtable channel. Unfortunately, that is not the case. So I ask each and every single one of you, if this is the first time you've seen this show, I've been plugging it like a crazy man for the past couple of weeks. I hope it's not. But if it is, do me a favor and go subscribe to that YouTube channel. Link is pinned at the top of the chat. Speaking of Diggs, Kevin said something interesting earlier today where he said, you know what, like all these Bills fans, all you guys wanted was for Allen to stretch the ball downfield, right? Now he tried to do that, and you see what happens, right? Mistakes happen. I think last night was finally the straw that broke the camel's back for me because I have been in denial for the past 2 years that Buffalo didn't need a quality wide receiver on this roster. Somebody that can create consistent separation downfield. And it all just kind of clicked with me. Like being like, you know what? I kind of wondered why Buffalo's average depth of target has significantly decreased since Diggs ended up leaving this organization, why we've been so effective. It works, and I don't see a strategy like this, regularly hurting the Buffalo Bills. I still think that we're a 13-14 win team this year. I really do, Bills Mafia. I hate to hurt your feelings because I know a lot of you just want to go ahead and start doing mock drafts already and call it a season, but I still think this is a 13-14 win team. I do. I genuinely believe that. But I'm bought in now. I do think that there is something missing from this wide receiving core right now. Like Palmer, again, was just another story. I'm not sure if this organization is just so bought in on look at what Cole Beasley was when he came to the Buffalo Bills. We elevated him. John Brown, we elevated that guy, right? Diggs had the best season of his career when he came to Buffalo. All these experiments, as much as I tried to get excited about them, they're not working right now with Palmer, with Curtis Samuel, although he did find his way right into the end zone last night. Great. I think that was kind of his audition for the trade deadline, if you will. But I think it's pretty clear. We are missing something significant in this wide receiving room. I'm finally hopping on that bandwagon. Jake, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I think that something is missing from the Buffalo Bills offense, and that's a number one weapon. Here's the thing. I think that the Buffalo Bills offense, as is, everyone eats, it works to a certain point. Like the Bills, they're getting 30 points. They get 30 points most games. That's a really solid number. You're going to win most games like that. The defense, I say that's still the priority to fix up some areas there. But the wide receiver, I don't think it's something that can necessarily be addressed to the level that you'd like to see it in the middle of the season. Like last year, the Bills brought in Amari Cooper. It was helpful, but his statistics weren't anything crazy. I think it helped with opening up other players underneath, but something's definitely missing here. You look around the National Football League at some of the top teams, the Philadelphia Eagles, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. I think those are both receivers that the Buffalo Bills would consider upgrades. And the Eagles, the thing with them is they're not even really utilizing them right now because they don't have to. They got a loss yesterday, but off topic. I think the Buffalo Bills, they could really use a number one wide receiver, and it's something that has definitely been missing, but everyone eats. It works. I think something's to be said for the emergence of Dalton Kincaid. He's been a stud, and last night his first 100-yard receiving game of his career, but I think that something's missing, and we know what we have in Keon Coleman. He's someone who is good at the 50-50 jump ball scenarios, but that did not turn out to be 50-50 last night. We know what we have with Khalil Shakir. He's going to catch almost everything. He's like a vacuum. Dalton Kincaid's emerging. But if you get that number one solidified wide receiver, someone who can line up on the outside and win his battles, that would be really beneficial for this offense.
So I feel like I'm living Groundhog's Day right now because, I don't think that Buffalo intends on addressing the defense at all, like during the trade deadline. I don't. I'm seeing way too many similarities from last year, especially after that Houston Texans loss, where, again, that was a big narrative where, like, none of our weapons were getting open. And then look at what happened. We ended up bringing in Amari Cooper, who is a bargain bin deal, by the way. Like, we got him in for like $700,000 or something. So it's going to be tight for us to expect to see something like that happen again. But I'm not sure about you boys, but like now I'm looking at it. If Buffalo does make any moves at all, I mean, you got to think he's going wide receiver. Like, you got to think he's going wide receiver at the deadline.
Think about this, though. Like, the reason that we did this last year, and one thing to remember, like, Josh Allen wants a certain receiver. Like, he does. Yeah. That's like what he prefers. You can listen to him or you can't. I don't know the organizational philosophy on that, on how you feel. But one of the things that Bills wanted to hone in on in 2025 was deep passing and how bad it was last year. So the Bills were like, you know what? We have to readjust something. Second in attempts in 2024 with going 20-plus air yards. They were 21st in EPA on those dropbacks. They were 28th in separation. They were 29th in quarterback rating. And Josh Allen himself was negative 1.4 in completion percentage over expectation. He wasn't good in throwing the ball deep. So the Bills offense came in and said, all right, like second in attempts, but we're like 28th in most major metrics here. It's not necessarily his best strength of a player. He's off script. He's making, Josh out of the pocket to his right. He can run. Like, there's a lot of things that Josh Allen does. Throwing deep isn't number one on his list. So we're targeting something that he's already not specifically good in. Now, our counter argument is, Kevin, they don't have the receiver. So if he had the receiver, those numbers would look better. Do we know that? Like, so ultimately we dumped a 3rd round pick into Amari Cooper. Like, we need to be careful with that again this year in terms of, like, there needs to be a really specific receiver that can come in and hopefully have some term. Like, I don't want a guy that's old with 7 games left on his contract. They need to have some type of term. So Shaheed's interesting to me because he's going to get some form of payment at some point. So I think they need to look and find somebody, even like a Rasul Douglas, that had a year and a half that could assimilate into the offense or defense. But ultimately, throwing deep hasn't been their calling card and hasn't been overly successful. And they've sunk some assets into doing it. So there needs to be some discussion down on if that's the way they go. And don't forget, they get 9 defensive players back. One of them may not, obviously Dwayne Carter's out for the year. 9 defensive guys that I thought would get jerseys on game day aren't playing right now. That's Milano being out for the second half too. But 9 guys. So it's like at some point, like the second half to look the way it did defensively, you got to overcome some of this. You're playing dudes, practice squad dudes. I did not think Logue was very good. I did not think Mathis was very good. Like guys that shouldn't be getting jerseys. And Shaq Thompson in a pivotal moment on the play that everybody's talking about with Drake May, that the defensive line did its job super well. And Shaq Thompson thinks it's a sack. He's sitting there looking around, and I like Shaq Thompson. I thought he put in good minutes. He's looking around thinking the play's over. Diggs didn't do anything. He's just standing there on the sideline. Like he scrambled a little bit, went into a position to get help for May. But ultimately, Shaq Thompson needs to be right there in his quarter coverage zone on the bottom half of the zone and cover him. He had nowhere else to go with the football other than out of bounds. So at some point, Matt Milano makes that play. That's period.
Yeah.
I don't care how good you think he is or isn't at this stage of his career. He makes that specific play, at least knocks the ball down. That's it. Like, and borderline, if there's a linebacker in the right quarters coverage, that's an interception. So that's why ultimately, I don't know. That's a Josh Allen risky play when he batted the ball out of bounds against Houston in the defensive or in the wild card round. Like that ball can be intercepted, especially against the coverage the Bills had. But Shaq Thompson is nowhere to be seen. And that's someone that I like his play. So Dan, 8 defensive starters coming back, maybe 7, whatever you want to consider. And I think one of them, I know Z-Bots mentioned Trey White, should be off the field at some point here soon. And I think that Ed Oliver, like there's a couple of corrections that be made that is going to make this game in December much, much, much different. So maybe they do target offense. But the last point I'll make, actually better than Stefon Diggs yesterday per EPA was Dalton Kincaid, excuse me. Was the number 1 player in the game yesterday with 1.07 EPA. Ridiculous. He played better than Stefon Diggs. But ultimately, it was kind of a battle between the two in this game. So that's kind of how I'll land there.
The disappointment with that, though, is that Diggs gets 12 targets and Dalton Kincaid gets 6. Like I've watched some of the that portion of the game in the first quarter where Josh Allen threw 2 fade routes to Keon Coleman on either side of the field. If you go back and look, Dalton Kincaid's wide open, crossing across the left side of the field. Dalton Kincaid was playing incredible. The fact that he got 6 targets in that game when they were struggling to throw the ball down the field, they only had 3 throws of 20-plus air yards. There was 1 completed to Joshua Palmer. The other 2 were incomplete. But in the intermediate game, it was almost exclusively Dalton Kincaid, and I just don't think they went to him enough. And I didn't realize the stat was that potent, to your point there, Kevin. So that just doubles down on what I was thinking the whole time, where it was, why are we not just going back to the well? Josh McDaniel had no problem continuing to go back to Stefon Diggs. It's almost all they did in the second half. I would have liked to have seen a bigger emphasis on continuing to feed Kincaid because he was absolutely on fire last night.
Yeah. No, and you know what? I'm just happy that he's finally living up to his first-round pedigree. Like, he truly was a man on fire last night in an area where I thought Buffalo would have focused exclusively their offensive attack against. Z-Bot, we were talking a little bit about, as the trade deadline appears, what are your thoughts? So do you think that we need to dip back into the well and at the very least bring a threat back into this receiving core? What are your thoughts there, man?
I don't know. I don't know who you're getting right now. I just don't know who you're adding right now that's going to be the biggest difference maker. This team going into last night was a point shy of being the highest scoring offense in the NFL behind the Detroit Lions, who I think have scored the most points through 5 games in their franchise's history. That's where the Buffalo Bills offense was going into last night. They turned the ball over 3 times and they were still set up to potentially go and score 27 points and win that game if they don't falter and 24 points. If they don't falter and settle for the field goal at the end to tie it. Josh Allen throws an interception right around the red zone. They could have gotten points there. So for as much as we want to talk about this, they only threw the ball down the field. Like I mentioned, they only threw a deep ball 3 times in that game yesterday. What frustrated me the most in the game last night wasn't that they weren't getting the receivers involved or going deep or trying to make some magic happen down the field with Josh Allen's arm. It was the fact that they weren't running the offense the way that they had been up until this point and the way that they did to open up the second half. How about that drive to open the second half? It's exactly what they've been doing. Dink, dunk, hand it off to James Cook, a pass in the middle of the field there, left, right, move the chains, move the sticks, boom, we're in the end zone. Where was that the entire first half, as opposed to running 2 fade routes down each sideline on 2nd and 10 and 3rd and 10, or a reverse with Dawson Knox, or a flea flicker, which I know they completed, but what was that? I mean, it wasn't even a flea flicker. Cook and Allen were within a foot of each other. Why not continue to do what I think this team has gotten incredibly good at under Joe Brady, and that is just doing what is easy. They went away from James Cook, I thought, last night. I know he still had 15 carries, but I don't know if they were able to truly get that going the way that they wanted to, and it felt like they kind of veered away from it at times. I don't know if a receiver is a Band-Aid for this team right now, and I don't necessarily know if they really need it. I think that last night it was more of them playing out of character, Josh Allen at times in particular playing out of character, than it was me watching that game saying they need a top-end wide receiver, which is just one isn't available right now, or just an additional wide receiver like an Amari Cooper type move they made last year. I think that they're honestly kind of fine in that department. I just think that it needs to be better executed, and last night it certainly wasn't.
It's those pesky divisional games. Speaking of wide receivers, it's all been confirmed that for the second time in his career, back-to-back years, Keon Coleman was benched in the first quarter of the game due to head coach discipline.
Is this new? Did this just come out?
It just came out about an hour ago. Yeah,
that was the only explanation? Head coach discipline?
Yeah.
Something happened during the week, yeah.
Yeah, and then he asked, was it bad? And he was just like, well, I expect more. I don't know what the story was last year with him. I think maybe it had something to do with him being late to practice or something along those lines. But dude, we're talking 2 years in a row now. We're talking 2 years in a row now where I don't know if this should be a cause for concern. Thoughts?
Wait, so what did he say? What was because they went to him a bunch in the first quarter. So what was the discipline? The first drive, you said? First drive?
First drive.
Yeah. First drive.
Huh.
Which wasn't long because of the speed option to Knox.
Yeah.
So which Brady commented on today, by the way, saying that he had a 2x2 box to the right. He didn't hear the check at the line that goes for Knox, I'm assuming, and it's a 7 to 12 yard play. So, and everybody would have been celebrating it because it would have got them in a commanding early position to at least kick a field goal in the box. They were trying to attack Tavai, who was coming back off of injury, and they had the box they were looking for. It was literally commented on, just as you mentioned, just about an hour ago on that play. Obviously, the execution wasn't there, but did defend the getting too cute, which I thought was more than the explanation of the box or whatever. Who cares? Was more that the he did not think that was getting too cute. He said Knox is a pivotal part of the offense, and you would obviously want the ball in his hand because he had the box numbers on 2-on-2 blocked up, and it could have gone for even more yards. So
he thinks Dawson Knox is getting 12 yards on an end around.
Yeah, I guess so.
He put it in his playbook, and he also comments that it was a Josh alert. He made sure to say he calls 2 plays Josh Manja did or kill, whatever, the audible was at the time. and switched to the Knox play. So did say that it was some form of like Josh noticed the box was in his favor, and it wasn't a play call by, it was always there in that situation. He also referenced your flea flicker, that he said that on a quick change of possession, and it was after their fumble, that they were going to call the flea flicker on any quick change of possession because they wanted to attack the linebacking core. So that he did have answers to both of those scenarios, as well as commenting on the Coleman thing was he had to have been late or missed something, like, or was out too late curfew. It's something like that. Like that's usually what gets you a drive suspension from your head coach would make a lot of sense. Then fumbled, by the way. So I don't know if that's really weird. I don't know if that had anything to do with anything, but just always remember that he then did fumble when he came back in the game pretty quickly,
which was huge.
Indeed. Folks, we need to give a giant shout out to Picasso's Pizza. Buffalo Pizza, ladies and gentlemen. If you are located in Western New York, certainly recommend you go take advantage of their 4 locations. If you're not in Buffalo, have no fear. They are delivering nationwide. Simply just go to that nationwide button on their website, and they will deliver pizza wherever you are within the continental United States. Great for gifts, great for a bit of nostalgia in case you end up missing home. All right. So right now, I mean, I feel like that this is a trend where the Buffalo Bills ultimately end up dropping some games right around October. October is not a good month for the Buffalo Bills, right? Like October is not good. September, we start off strong. And then once that damn month of fall rolls around, this team ends up, losing a couple, and the fan base goes absolutely insane. We hear other fan bases going crazy, celebrating the fact that Buffalo is just going to completely spiral down the drain and all is lost for this organization. I think we owe it to the people that we at least need to give them something to feel positive about. I'll go ahead and I'll start off with this. Guys, I really think that last night was an anomaly as far as how the Buffalo Bills went out there and played as undisciplined as they did. 3 turnovers, losing the turnover battle for the first time in God knows how long. I'm pretty sure Jake was still in elementary school the last time that the Buffalo Bills ended up losing the turnover battle. But I think that's what I'm going to chalk it up to. Even though we had the worst game that we've had in quite some time, I think that we need to put things into perspective that we still only lost by 3 points. And I know that's probably not the best thing that you want to hear right now. You're like, oh, no, Dan, we need to beat every team 72-3. All right? Or otherwise, it's a complete wash. And we need to fire everybody, and it is what it is. I genuinely believe this. We line up this Patriots team 10 times, we win 9. I believe that to my core. All right? Let's go on ahead. Let's lick our wounds. Hopefully we get Ed Oliver back next week. We just heard that Matt Milano is week to week with a pec injury, for the love of God. And then hopefully Max Harrison will eventually be activated, for his 21-day practice window, and all will be well. Because remember, this Sean McDermott Buffalo Bills team is the most dangerous in November and December. Let's see if all of these up-and-coming new teams can follow that exact same path. Time will tell, and we have a lot of football left to be played. Jake, some positive thoughts, and let Bills Mafia walk away with today.
I think the biggest positive to take away from this game is the fact that Dalton Kincaid was all over the place. Dalton Kincaid was on fire last night, and as you mentioned earlier, showing that first-round pedigree. Finally, in 2025, he's been really solid, and his trajectory is just skyrocketing right now. So as long as he can keep that up, he's going to be a really valuable weapon for this Bills offense for years to come. Beyond that, looking around the National Football League, upsets happen. There were some upsets this week. You had the Denver Broncos against the Philadelphia Eagles, and then the San Francisco 49ers against the Los Angeles Rams, which I think is a bit more...
And the Mac Jones led.
I think that's a bit more comparable to this game, strictly because it's a divisional matchup, and the road team goes in, upsets at home. So upset alert, it happens. But the Buffalo Bills, you got to remember, number 17, Josh Allen, is at quarterback. The MVP is on this team. And this team's got a lot of potential here. A lot of potential. Coming up next, we got the Atlanta Falcons on the road, and I'm feeling really good about that game. I'll be there. And I'm ready to see the Buffalo Bills take out all their frustration after this divisional round loss. I mean, Josh Allen's going to be ticked off. The Buffalo Bills have to be pissed off. They just have to use that energy the right way. Take it out there, explode, put up 40 points, do whatever. Just walk out of Atlanta with a W. And, we got that bye week coming up soon too. So that's going to be really useful because the Buffalo Bills, after that bye week, Sean McDermott, he's never lost a game.
Never lost a game after that, ladies and gents. Z-Bot. And let's talk to these people with some positivity. So why should we be okay?
Well, I mean, positivity. I really do think the defense played well last night. I really do. I mean, you have Coleman fumble. They start at the 10. That results in a field goal. You have them down on the inch line, which, by the way, how about there being a second remaining, not to turn the positive into a negative, but if there wasn't a second remaining, the Bills lose by 3 in this game. They kick a field goal right before that. So once that happened, you always know with the Bills, or at least it feels this way, it always feels like, oh, of course there's a second. When's that going to come back around? And then you look back on it, they lose by 3. But the defense stands there. That could have been a touchdown. That could have been demoralizing the way the Bills offense have been playing in the first half. They hold them to 6 points. And I really do think the Bills defense made some great plays that the Patriots just outmatched them on in a couple of pivotal spots where I don't know much more they could have done. Defensively, and New England just made a great play. I really do think in a game where you were looking for the Bills defense to step up in a variety of different ways, I think they did. I think they held the run in check. I think they stepped up on third down. They had multiple sacks on third down. They sacked Drake May 4 times. They forced that fumble right after the Bills gave it up. The Bills give it up again. Like I mentioned, they stop them from getting in the end zone starting on their own 10. So I think the positive here, despite not getting a crucial stop at the end, I really do think that there was some positives to take away from the defensive effort on Sunday Night Football, and hopefully they can build on that. They have a massive test next week. I know it looks like it's the Atlanta Falcons who got rolled 30-0 against the Carolina Panthers. But I think at this point in their careers, Drake London's probably a better receiver than Stefon Diggs. And you're going up against that in conjunction with maybe the best running back in the NFL in Bijan Robinson. That's an offense that you would think would be able to do some stuff successfully against this Bills defense the way it's gone up until this point. So that to me is a huge test. And it was a really good bounce back game, or at least I thought it was a good game collectively from the defense beyond what they've done up until that point. Next week to me is pivotal. If they can hold Bijan Robinson in check, I know Michael Penix isn't a world beater, but if they can hold Drake London in check, teams have throughout the year up until this point. I know he had a really big game last week, but I think that if you're able to hold that offense in check and combine that with what they did last night, there's some positives to be taken away from a defense that kind of struggled through the month of September.
Talk to me, Kev. What you got?
I'm giving you guys all my positive takes already.
I know.
Getting called out for too many positive takes. So you have majority of
How dare you not be angry, Kevin? How dare you?
Of how I feel, Dan, already. But I'll give you a couple final thoughts on this whole thing.
Yeah.
And Zeba just touched on a bunch of it. Sack, back shoulder, 3rd and 8 conversion, incomplete, sack, questionable DPI, 3rd and 7 scramble to Diggs, sack. That was the 3rd down for the New England Patriots. And ultimately, that is a focal point that the Bills were trying to hone in on. And that's huge. And Bijan Robinson is a really great running back, but he's better in the passing game, and he's dominant in the passing game. Only gone over 74 yards once running the ball. So they need to be disciplined, and Sean McDermott generally does well in situations with inexperienced quarterbacks. So we're going to have to see what they're going to be able to do. I think they're going to do everything they can to stack the box and stop it with that Oliver specifically too. So I think it's going to have to be a Michael Penix game. But ultimately, look up Josh Allen's indoor numbers and be prepared to be wowed. Just the way that he plays inside of a dome or retractable roof, either way, his numbers are ridiculous.
Dome Allen.
And that's why he pushed for one or laughed about having one here. His numbers are ridiculous. Whatever it is about just a totally an environment that's controlled, that's always going to be the same. He participates and plays super well in. So I think that's something to remember when it comes to Josh Allen in this upcoming game. And also, look, it's 1 week. They turn the ball over 3 times. They led in time of possession. They led in yardage. And ultimately, after that horrible offensive display that even I'm putting on the offense, James Cook didn't play a particularly great game. And you can blame that to game flow, Bills line, whatever you want to blame, Brady, whoever, I don't care. But the running game in general wasn't good. And this is some of the things they're going to have to overcome when it doesn't play good. But ultimately, for all things considered, like the numbers are okay. They outdid a lot of the Patriots in a lot of different areas. We'll see how this game looks in December with hopefully some of those 9 participants on defense being back, at least 5 or 6 of them. Could be a completely different game when the next time they play. And Dan, ultimately, there's a lot of positivity to come out of it that I didn't have him going 17-0, and I'm Mr. Positive. So I don't know. I thought that one of these were going to be a loss in here between here and Atlanta. So now they need to bounce back and have it be the win.
All right. Well, Bills Mafia, and please do us a favor and take yourself a deep breath, right? And you take yourself a deep breath because at the end of the day, I think we can all agree that our season is going to be longer than the New England Patriots this year. I would be very interested to see what this team looks like in November and December. I'm chomping at the bit to see them again when we go into Foxborough, and things are looking up, right? If you don't believe me, just look at history for the past couple of weeks. October is not our month, but the most important part of any football season is November and December football, and that is when we get dangerous. Thank you so much for tuning in. Guys, go subscribe to the Bills Roundtable YouTube channel, pinned at the top of my live chat, and we'll see you on Thursday as we unpack this Atlanta Falcons game. See you soon.
Go Bills.